Hey guys, so I wanted to start with talking about something. Um, I want to talk about assignments that God gives you. If you've been chosen and you've been assigned, and God's given you a kingdom spouse, and you've particularly been chosen for something like this, um, it's gonna be a journey. You're gonna have your ups and downs. And the thing is, God's not playing around. This is part of His final harvest because, from what I've been feeling, is that a lot of people aren't going to come to the Father unless it's through a unique ministry. They call them lost coins. And so, from what I felt this morning and what's been bothering me lately is because, I love someone out there. I love her so much. Born on Halloween. Okay? You know what? Um, she mistreated me, disrespected me, and you know what? The enemy wants me to give up and walk away and, forget about it. My family wants me to completely give up on it. No, forget it. That's not true. It's not going to happen. Because I'm going to tell you, when the Father gives you a revelation, sometimes you have to keep it to yourself. And I haven't done that. I go and I bleed it and I go whatever. And I've never learned that this is something that you have to do. And if the Father gives you a revelation, He's given you a promise, you're going to have to hold that promise. And you're going to hold it close to your heart. If you had a picture of someone, you hold that picture right up against your chest and you don't let anybody see it. Even if that picture is a mental image. Because you have to understand that when God gives a revelation or gives a prophetic dream or a vision, that when He does it, He brings it to you from outside a time frame. So before the actual time. So it's a future event. Habakkuk 2:3 says, you know, it will come sooner than expected, um, in the due season, it will come, And so you have to understand that God sees things ahead of us. He sees things outside of our time frame. And sometimes you might be lucky enough, like I am, to be able to be given a prophetic revelation, but then you just got to sit there and wait for every piece of it to manifest. For me, it's very frustrating because, I'm at the season and I'm frustrated because, you know what? I love this person. I love her so much that it irritates me. It makes me want to scream at her, and she knows who she is. I've had it. I've literally had it. I've told God, absolutely not. No, you won't. You will not go and call me a false prophet. You will not go and say these things. Because the thing is, you have to remember, the promise didn't come from you as an earthly person. It came from the Father. And so I've reminded the Father, said, you said you would do this. You said this is your promise. You said you're going to do this. So absolutely not. No. You don't get that right. You don't get the right to come in and say, oh, well, you made that up. That's earthly. No, it's not. No. If God spoke it and you believe that He's confirmed it too, because I've had multiple confirmations on this one, and, I've got another name for her. I call her Reveille. I mean, this, a five-star general. And I don't think people understand that, when you love someone so much, you're not letting go of them. It don't matter what they say. She can be absolutely frustrated with me because I decided I was going to go ahead and email her because I'm trying to get her attention, but she doesn't want to listen to me. So, and I'm spiritually connected to her, so she's probably going to hear everything I'm talking about. So, I don't care. I really don't care at all. But I need you guys to understand that when God makes you a promise, if He gives you prophetic revelation, you have to hold on to it. Don't you shift out of gear. You stay in the fifth gear. Don't you shift into reverse. Don't you shift into third gear. You stay in fifth gear and you keep plowing forward. You remind God of that promise, because I'm going to tell you, this is what the Lord showed me as a lot of these kingdom unions that God is bringing together. It's not just her. It's everybody else. I can't handle the heartache. I'm sorry. I told God, I said, I can't take it no more. I've had it. I've had it with her being rebellious. Oh, and there's the other thing too. A lot of you unions out there, your prodigals are running from their callings because some of their callings are actually prophetic. They actually have prophetic gifts, prophetic callings on their life, and they have Esther anointings. So you might have a Daniel anointing, or you might have an Elijah anointing. It depends upon your prodigal spouse, whoever's coming back to you. And the thing is, the enemy doesn't want them to discover their calling. He doesn't want them to step up to the microphone. He doesn't want them to step up. So here's the thing I want you guys to get, okay? It doesn't matter what they try to do. It doesn't matter what the enemy tries to tell you or they're trying to say, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and you go how many times you go around the mountain, or how many times you decide to whip around the sun or around the earth, however many times that the earth spins around, that at the end of the day, when God says it's time, it's time. He's going to push it into alignment. And here's the thing, is that he has everything set up, and he's got everything set up for a specific time frame. Like, for example, plane doors, they close at a specific time. They have to get back up in the air. They only have a certain amount allowed of time to actually get everybody on the plane. So I'm telling you, in this season, God's sending out last minute boarding calls. Okay? Your spouse is going to come home. If God's giving you a revelation, you have to go out and you have to submit that to the Father. You have to remind the Lord, hey, this is my spouse. This is the one you chose me. This is the one you chose for me. You got to remind him of that promise and say, no, I'm not going to allow them to act this way. They're not allowed to have this kind of behavior in your courthouse, in your courtroom, because here's the thing. He gave that promise to you. That's his promise. Now, yes, he can take it away, but there's a huge difference. See, this is what just frustrates me, is that I understand she's got free will, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to eventually submit to God's perfect will. And if you keep rebellion, and you keep rebellion in your heart, and you keep being rebellious, and you keep deciding, oh no, I'm going to do it my own way, God's going to do exactly like he did with Jonah. You go south, he's going to go north with you. And he's going to rock that boat until you have to jump off and get swallowed by a whale. Because God's not playing around right now. He wants his final harvest. And he's got a limited amount of time for these unions to come together. Because I'm going to tell you right now, each one of you guys have a different assignment. You have different ministries. And he's being creative with these unions too. These aren't like regular ministries. Some of you are going to be winning lost souls and lost coins that don't even think that they're lost. And so, I told the Father, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give in, And I say right now, it's frustrating because you know how much I love a person that it makes me cry. I literally cry myself to sleep at night because I love her that much. And I found something out that really frustrates me because it's like, why would you do this to me? Why would you hate me this way? Why would you run? Why would you know something? And that's what bugs me. She already knew. And you run. And you basically, you had something. And whether it's feelings or whatever. But because he didn't want anybody in the family or anybody else to know what was going on. So she had to cut me off. And I don't approve that. I don't appreciate that. And I remember one night I had a dream and she was sitting in my house. And I was letting her, she was being honest with me, And I needed some time and space to myself. And I went halfway up the stairs and I lost it. And I burst into tears at the center of the stairs in my house. And I began to cry. I bawled like a baby. Because I couldn't understand how somebody could do this to me. And then say to my family that they didn't want anything to do with me, but then they've holding it in their heart. They've been holding this in their heart, and they've had this. They know that I'm their chosen partner for their life, but they've just refused. And so, I've been telling the Father, you kick them into high gear. God's going to, and that's the thing, God's going to expose your partner. If you're a prodigal and you've got a calling on your life, God's not playing around with you. He's not playing with you. He's not playing with you. He's going to have his final harvest, whether he likes it or not. And if you're if you're if you're running like a toddler or like a child that's refusing to submit, he's going to go pick you up and put you back in the car seat and say, no, you're coming with me, so to speak. He's going to grab you. He's going to pick you up no matter what type of tantrum you throw at him. And he's going to say, no, you're going to submit to this because this is my perfect will for your life. Now, he will give you time. He does do that. He will give you time to find out. But if it's his perfect will for your life and he's at that point where it's like, no, I need you now. No, this is going to happen. No, you have to submit. I mean, I've had a friend of mine that had gone through horrible, losing jobs one after another because God needed to get him to submit, even to the point of killing some of the counterfeits. But I've been mentoring a friend named Amy, and Amy has been suffering because this is her kingdom spouse. Her kingdom spouse's name is Daniel, and so he just was like, oh no, he didn't want to be with her or whatever. And so we had prayed that God would convict his heart, that Daniel would actually finally come back to the Lord, that he would actually come back. And I guess he had ran off. So this is the thing that a lot of these prodigals are doing, is that sometimes they'll just run off from the calling, but they'll sometimes run completely away from the Lord. And so you have to understand that God he's moving behind the scenes. And sometimes it might take a tugging on your partner's heart to get them to come back. And so you have to pray that God exposes them and gets them to align with God's will. I love how Taya Grace talked about how God's going to expose their will, expose them and get them to step up to the microphone. But we are in the last days, and God does not have time to play around. He's not playing with you people. He's not playing. You have to submit. You have to understand that if you got born again and you got saved, you gave your life up already, honey. You gave your life up. I don't know who I'm talking to, but you gave your life up already. You surrendered your heart to Jesus, and you gave your life up, and you said that you were willing to do whatever God wanted you to do. That when you took that servanthood, and that when you said, because basically Jesus says, if you love me, you'll feed my sheep. If you love me, you will obey me. And, he's not playing around with these people. He's not playing with anybody. If you're lukewarm, he's going to spit you right out of his mouth. The Lord's very clear that when the enemy comes in like a flood, God will raise the standard up against him. So you have to be able to take your time, trust the Father. If God's given you a promise, you got to stand on it. But don't be sharing another word with your spouse if that's not for them. For example, and I'm going to tell you, God's given me a promise about my kingdom spouse. I should never have given it or shared it with her. Why? Because she can't move on that. She has to have something from the Father for himself. Okay? You can't. When it comes to dreams, destinations, and prophetic revelations, if God gives you something that's only private, you have to understand the difference between a word that's private and a word that's public. If he's given you something and he's told you to hold it in your heart, don't you be going telling someone out there. You don't know who they are. Are they a witch? Are they a warlock? Do you know who that person is? Is that counterfeit that you're trying to date? Is that a witch or a warlock that's trying to keep you from your calling? Do you know who you're dealing with? I want to remind you right now, do you know? Do you know what you're dealing with? Because here's the thing. If the enemy can make you run from your calling and make you run from the God-ordained spouse that he has for you, do you understand the enemy can actually try to take you down too? Because then you're surrendering to the devil himself. Just like Stephanie said, you throw in the calling, you're surrendering to the enemy. So either you're standing on the sidelines and you refuse to fight, or you become a 12th man and then you get called in to it, then you get into the battlefield and you start to fight. So you can either cry, fuss, and cross your arms and say, no, I'm not going to have anything to do with it. No, I'm not going to do this. Or you can stand up and you can fight and continue to believe on a promise that God gave you and continue to go for it. So, and this is the thing too. If God didn't intend for you to be believing for that person, you wouldn't continue to still stand for it. He would have already given you another reason to pull away. He would have already given you another reason. So, and I'm just going to remind some of these prodigals out there. If your kingdom or ordained spouse reaches out to you, just understand that God's given you a second chance. You better not blow that second chance. You better let that person back in your life because God assigned you to that person. They wouldn't be reaching out to you unless God told them to reach out to you. So, I suggest for a lot of you out there to repent because you're not your own. He picked the cream of the crop. People don't get into Harvard just because they get into Harvard. They have to have perfect grades. They have to be accepted for everything. Just like these kingdom unions. You were accepted and chosen by the Father as if you got into some kind of Harvard school. And He chose you for a specific purpose and a specific calling because He knows the calling that He has on your life. He knows the gifts that you have. He knows whether you're prophetic. He knows what your calling is. He knows what you can do. He knows how dangerous you are to the enemy too. And He knows the distractions that the enemy's thrown at you because at first you don't want to be a part of something, so you're going to let that enemy try to destroy you. So, I want you guys to understand, you got to be careful. Some of you prodigals out there are dating someone you shouldn't even be involved in. You shouldn't even be paying attention. You don't know. You don't know if that prodigal is trying to actually take you out. Or that counterfeit. You're a prodigal, you got a counterfeit around you. That's not good. Because I assure you, that if that counterfeit is actually trying to do something against you, it's not just the person that keeps trying to reach out to you. I don't know whether you're a guy or a girl listening to this, but if you've got a kingdom spouse that keeps trying to tell you that you're their kingdom spouse, you better listen to them, because they've got the revelation you don't. God gave it to them. You can get the same revelation that they got right out of His eyes too, but you're going to have to step up higher in order to get it. This is a battlefield, brother, not a recreation room. You don't get to just, you don't get to just decide that, oh, I'm going to live my life the way I want to live my life, and just disobey all the rules. Do you think somebody's going to have a driver's license if they just decide they're going to drive on the wrong side of the street? No. They're going to get pulled over and have their driver's license snatched from them. Same with a pilot. You think somebody's going to get to fly a plane and think, oh, I'm just going to go run this thing in the ground? No. It's the same with you. God gave you a promise. He has something very specific for you. But you can't just act this way. He has a purpose and a plan for your life. And maybe some of you will have to seek the Father on this. And that's because a lot of you have to come up higher. He's not playing around. He's not playing around in this time and season. There's so many of these people that are unsaved. God's about to do something. He's about to flood them. He's about to flood the market of souls. They're going to be coming into the churches. And they're not going to know the Lord. And some of these kingdom unions are going to be unique because of the way they're going to win souls into the kingdom. Some of your testimonies about how God brings your spouse back together are going to be still on YouTube when you die and you pass away. And people are still going to be getting born again. That's why the enemy's fighting you so hard. That's why there's so many witchcraft attempts coming against your union. Because God knows how many souls He's going to get out of you. He says, some of you guys are going to be winning souls like residual income. You got people just going to get saved more and more and more. You might put a video up on YouTube and guess what? That person is going to get saved. That's what the devil don't want. He don't want people getting born again. That's why he's fighting you so much. Because he doesn't want these people to get saved. He doesn't want to see this testimony up on YouTube about how these two people came back together. He doesn't want Paul and Rebecca to get saved because they saw a video of a testimony about how a kingdom spouse came back to, and the prodigal came back. And how long it took for them to finally find each other and realize that they're supposed to be together. And it took him 6 years, and the spouse kept fighting and saying, no, I don't want anything to do with you. No, I don't want to be there. No, I don't believe in this. No, I don't think you're true. I think you're false. I'm telling you, God is going to be getting people born again that would not come into the kingdom. You talk about frustrating the hell out of an atheist. So I'm going to, guys, remind you, if God's given you a promise regarding your kingdom spouse, you need to stand. You need to stand on that promise. Quit crying and shedding tears. You stand on that promise. Because he knows what he's doing. And he wants his final harvest. And for some of you prodigals out there, if you keep resisting what God wants you to do, and you keep running from your calling, because some of you are assigned. You're assigned to that partner. That's your assignment. God assigned you to that partner. Just like a pastor is assigned to a church, God assigned you to that partner for a reason. Because of what's about to happen. They said people are going to get born again. They're going to get saved. And the devil's trying to make you not want to submit to that partner is because he doesn't want you winning souls like this. Maybe there's something the devil's trying to hide from you because, the way that you feel is not you. It's the enemy because he's trying to stop you from fulfilling your calling. It's the witchcraft. It's the separation spells trying to stop you from fulfilling your divine destiny. Because here's the thing. If you understood what your destiny was, you wouldn't be sitting there fighting your kingdom partner. You'd be running back to him right now. And you wouldn't be able to get there fast enough. Because if you could see what God had put in front of you, if you understood the assignment that you have on your life, like some of you are songwriters, some of you are doing drama skits. I the other day I had a revelation of Carmen, okay? And this is somebody that he's a pioneer in this. And I'm sure that his kingdom spouse was part of doing some drama skits, especially for No Monsters. Because I want you to understand, for me, getting born again and getting saved and listening to this man talking about No Monsters and talking about a witch's invitation, you got to understand how much this man made me cry. That how he won souls into the kingdom. He would win 1,000 souls per night. He would get off a free concert. They talk about a man that had dedication for the Father. You talk about someone that had dedication for Jesus. Some of your spouses out there, I'm talking about these kingdom unions. Some of your prodigals, you need to step up to the plate. You got to stop being scared to hit the ball. God's not playing around with you. You got souls to win. Some of you got major destinies upon your life. Some of you got major destinies, major callings. Some of you are going to be inheriting churches. You have no clue what God's got for you. But because you got the enemy letting you run scared, you don't know what your calling is. Because you're running scared, you're going to run the opposite direction. Some of you are supposed to get on a train and you never got on it. And you're still sitting back at the station. And you're delayed. Everything in your life is now going to be delayed because you refuse to follow God's instructions. Some of you already know your kingdom spouse. Some of you already know who your partner is. But you're refusing to follow it. Because you're scared. You're running scared. You're running. You don't want to align with God's will because maybe you're living in sin or something. And you realize that partner is going to get you to submit to God's will. And to actually get you to step into alignment with his will. I'm not playing with any of these people. He wants his final harvest, and that's final. He's going to do it. Because I'm telling you, at the end of the day, you got your permissive will, but he's got his perfect will. And if he has to get you back in alignment, and he has to herd you like cattle to get you back in the gate, and you've run off like that 1 out of 99 just to get you back in the gate so that you actually will go submit to your calling, he will do it. This isn't so much about, we have free will. Yes, the Lord's given you free will. But into the end of the day, when it comes to a specific assignment that he's put on your heart and your life, and I'm telling you, you're being attacked by witchcraft. If you feel attacks at night and you feel like you're being attacked, I'm telling you that you got a calling on your life. You got a calling on your life. If your kingdom partner will not leave you alone because they keep bugging you, because maybe you really are supposed to be in their life, do you think that they would continue to bug you if you weren't supposed to be in their life? If you weren't their kingdom spouse? I don't think God would allow them to continue doing it. And no threats are going to work on it. None. It doesn't matter whether you block their text or block their phone or block their email or threaten them. God's still going to pull you back into their life. And if you fight him, God, I'm telling you folks, if you continue to fight the Father, God's going to put restrictions against you. He's going to put conditions against you. Because it's his final harvest that he's after. So I'm telling you guys, if you have a partner, if you have a major calling on your life, and you're supposed to be in ministry, and you're part of this final harvest, God's not playing around with you. He's not playing with you. Your kingdom partner did nothing wrong. Your kingdom spouse did nothing wrong to have you go and beating them up like this. So, I believe in this message at the end of this. It will be continued later. There will be a part 2 about this.